The key to my success is being investor obsessed. Everything we do starts and stops with investors, and that has proved to be a big win for us at Vive Funds. Multifamily delivers the highest amount of potential return for the least amount of relative risk. We use AI in every facet of our business. So that means we just have better data points, better prediction, better models that we can predict out with more accuracy and certainty than we could have 10 years ago. Today, you and I are going to talk about a lot of different things in the world of multifamily investment. We're going to cover deal structure. We're going to cover how to talk to investors. I'm going to share with you the biggest mistakes that I've made, how to retain your investors, how to pitch your investors, what an elevator pitch is, and also what the future of investing looks like as it relates to AI. I'm Veena Jetti, and this is Alt Street. My mom was a single family investor, very successful single family home investor, and she started getting into real estate because when my parents were trying to buy their first home, she went to the bank, and this was back in the day where it was stated income, so you literally just told the bank how much you made, and there was no verification process above and beyond that. And so she went and she told them, and at that time my dad was making, I think, like $45,000 a year. You know, this is in the 90s, early 90s, so it wasn't a lot, but it wasn't nothing either. We were very comfortable. And so she told the bank he's making $45,000. And they said, okay, here, you can have $1 million mortgage. And my mom goes, I think there's a typo because I can't figure out how we would afford $1 million mortgage on a $45,000 a year salary. This is back when arms and balloons were a big thing. And she said, okay, well, can I spend that $1 million on more than one house, or do I have to buy just one house? And I think the banker was thinking she was going to buy like a vacation home and then our mansion that we were going to live in. And instead what my mom did was she went and she bought, I think it was like 5 houses that were like $200,000 each. And they were all in the same neighborhood or area. And she rented out 4 of them, and then we lived in one, and every 2 years we would move from house to house to house. And that's how she got started investing in real estate. It's weird how normalized it was for us to talk about money, to talk about finance, to talk about savings. My parents talked a lot about investing and how to be frugal. And, you know, I think a part of it is I'm the daughter of immigrants, so they had kind of an immigrant mentality somewhat around money, and they came here with $26 and they built everything they have. You know, now they retired early from their hard work and their investments and their savings and their real estate portfolio. It really paid off, but they played the long game very much, and they instilled it almost just as a way of life for my sister and I. Yeah, so when I was 16, my parents had a rule that if we were going to get a car, we had to pay for the down payment on the car, and then I had to pay for gas and insurance. And I had to get a job. So I printed out this stack of resumes that I had completely mostly made up, and I would go from office to office and I would hand them to the person who was ever at the front. I didn't even know if they were hiring, and I didn't even know what they did. Like, I had no idea what their offices were like. And I walked into this office. It was actually, at that time, it was called Payne Weber. They don't exist anymore. And there were 2 guys there, Rob Siracusano and Charles Sleazer, and they were top producers for Payne Weber, and they were in the wealth management side. And they called me and they said, hey, we'd like you to come in for an interview. And I was like, okay, amazing. So I went in for an interview and they loved me. And so they created a position for me. I was the first intern that they had ever hired. And then I started working there, and they would have me just do like odds and end tasks, probably trying to see what I could do because my resume was not very helpful or telling. And then they realized that I was naturally really good at talking to people and building relationships. And so they put me into a sales role. And they ended up hiring another intern who also went to high school with me. And she and I would be in this conference room, and they'd hand us a stack like this thick that they pulled from like LexisNexis of high net worth individuals in Naperville. And our job was to call them and speak to them enough that we convinced them to set an appointment to come in and meet with my bosses who were wealth managers. And then their whole plan was to see if they could move their portfolio to our company and they could manage their portfolio. And so it was making a lot of cold calls, and people were mean. They would like hang up in my face. They didn't know I was 16 years old, just trying to make gas money and insurance money. And then I started getting better and better at these calls, and I learned how to talk to people better. So probably about like 100 phone calls in, people stopped just like slamming the phone down. And this was back before there was like caller ID. There weren't cell phones. I was calling people's landlines. And you always wanted to call after 5 because that's when people are most likely to be home, or on weekends. But that's also when they don't want to be disturbed by sales calls. And so it was just a really challenging environment to be in, especially at 16. And then I ended up bringing in about $20 million of business over that summer. I ended up having a few clients come in, and obviously my bosses were really impressed, very happy. And at that time, I think maybe that summer, Payne Weber got bought by UBS and became UBS. And then my bosses moved from there to Wachovia, and they actually asked me to move with them. And so even through part of college, I worked with them. And so that was just like a really cool moment for me. But yeah, still have a really great relationship with them. They're the ones who gave me my springboard and really got me interested in finance and investments on a deeper, more professional level than what my parents had already instilled in me.